Hi, I'm Michael Anthony, and today we're going to be doing a lovely red carpet look on our beautiful model Gabrielle using all MAC products, so come along and enjoy. I did start my makeup career at MAC, and I think one of the most valuable things that I took from it, aside from all of the knowledge about product and about the art of doing makeup, is really the sense of community and family. Some of the relationships that I've made during my time at MAC have lasted longer than other relationships that I've had throughout my life. And MAC is always a very special place to me. It feels like home, and it feels like a safe place I can go to because of the way that MAC embraces individuality and creativity. And that's something I think that I will carry with me forever. Growing up, I saw a lot of music videos and magazines, and the women of my family were always very meticulous about their mascara and their makeup. So I think it wasn't until I walked into the MAC store in Fashion Valley in San Diego that I saw somebody covering a burn victim. And at first I thought they were just looking for kind of like a special event makeup. And then when they were wrapping up, the girl looked in the mirror and she started crying, and I realized the power of makeup. And at that moment, I asked for an application to work at MAC because I realized that there is so much more to it than just all the glam of it. My experience with the people that I'm working with, it teaches me a lot about myself, about exploring your comfort zones and stepping outside of that and making connections with people, and the opportunity to grow. You get limitless opportunities to do better. And the level that I'm working at now, where I'm able to see my work in magazines and on music videos and on billboards, it's important to me that I never stop growing and that my work is really fantastic. So that probably is my favorite part. But when I get to travel to places like India to shoot a Vogue cover, or when I'm on the red carpet of the Met Gala in New York, touching up somebody before they walk the red carpet, or when I'm on set of a TV show and I'm realizing that, so many people in the world are gonna see this, my mom's gonna see it. Those moments for me are huge highlights, and it never really gets old. I'm always humbled by it and kind of like shocked that this little kid that would color and paint in my room has, grown into this person who has a voice in the beauty community. Collaborating with a celebrity for a makeup look, I always like to take into account the person's image. Most public people have an existing image, so you have to take that into account. But the collaboration process for me is a lot about listening and paying attention to body language, but then also bringing my expertise to the table and saying, I know we can push it, I know we can do something even more creative, or we can try a different color or a different technique. So collaborating with celebrities or with musicians, it's always really fun, and it's one of the most fun parts of being a celebrity makeup artist for sure. I have worked with some of the people that were on my list of I would be over the moon if I got to work with them. But the wonderful thing about makeup is that it gives you a chance to connect with somebody. So I've always left myself open to experiences. So I'm down to work with anybody that's down to collab with me, more or less, My favorite MAC products, my favorite MAC products would have to be Lingering Eyebrow Pencil, Black Track Fluid Line, and Studio Fix, because there's a little bit of nostalgia there for me. All the girls wearing Studio Fix with the sponge underneath, and drag queens that I know that would wear Studio Fix. And I love the coverage too, to be honest. It's like a one and done. So those would be my top three: Lingering, Black Track, and Studio Fix. For me, I think the best way to learn makeup is consistency. So doing it as often as you can, shooting with photographers that will give you honest feedback, staying open, and then also leaning on your peers and the people that you admire who have been in the industry before you. They've got tried and true techniques that you can learn from and you can adopt as your own. and sort of finesse to fit your own style. If you try something and it doesn't work, you take the lesson, you take the note, and you start over, or you give it another go. And yeah, just being open. We're in a time where information is shared so rapidly, and the amount of references and images and inspirations are sort of like this ever-revolving door. I used to sit in Barnes & Nobles and flip through fashion magazines from Europe. Now I have a favorites tab on Instagram that I go to if I'm looking for some inspiration. I think that underground culture has always been fascinating to me. When I lived in New York, I worked with a lot of drag queens and DJs and musicians. And I think that the world is starting to express themselves, or I think that people are starting to express themselves even more now. And that's inspiring to me. So when I'm traveling, I look at teenagers who are wearing crazy makeup, or older ladies in Italy who have like wild eyeliner. I think there's really inspiration all over. I just like to stay really alert and kind of like keep my eyes open to anything that will inspire me. My advice for makeup artists who want to get into the business, I think everyone's path is individual. I came into this by way of doing fashion in New York and Milan and Paris, and it segued into pop stars and celebrities, I think because of my flair for creative makeup. But there's a lot of avenues that you can get involved in, or you can go down with makeup, whether it's television, news anchors, bridal, fashion. So I think if you want to get into being a makeup artist, the most important thing is to hone your craft and know your references. When you're collaborating with people, they want to hear your perspective and your point of view. So I think it's really important to know the people who came before you and to study the eras of makeup so that you have a point of reference if you're doing something that is from a specific decade. So I think really working on your craft and taking feedback and whatever feels comfortable and feels genuine to yourself. I think when you try to fit a square peg into a round hole, it doesn't fit and it can be really obvious. So I think it's important not to sort of shove yourself into something that doesn't necessarily feel like you. Working for other people, assisting people, and of course MAC Cosmetics has one of the best training departments in the entire business. So working at the MAC counter, that's how I got my start. So I think it's a great step for somebody if they want to get involved in makeup, for sure. A red carpet beauty look, let's get to it. We're gonna start with some skin prep. A little bit of Fix Plus, some lip conditioner. I like to put all this stuff on in the beginning, let it sink in, absorb, that way later on. Everything is hydrated. I'll do a little bit of fast response eye cream, the best. I used to be addicted to this fast response eye cream because it has caffeine in it. So I always thought it was like a little espresso shot for your under eyes. Close for me. Great. And then my favorite moisturizer from MAC, the Studio Moisture Cream. This has like a very, very, very nice scent to it. Isn't that nice? You want to put it like all over your body. This is hydrating the skin, so it's gonna even out the texture. If you have any dry areas, it's gonna make sure that the foundation goes on nice and smooth and evenly all over. So let's just get into our foundation here. I'm gonna use the Studio Radiance Face and Body. This is shade C4. And for me, I find that it works best with my hands, but today I'm going to use a brush. I'm gonna use kind of like a little tight foundation brush. And Face and Body is great because it sort of acts like a second skin, and it's pretty sheer. It's got like a really natural finish to it. And I like using this in a little bit more of a tan shade, so something that kind of matches the perimeter of the face. so that we can even everything out first and see where we need more coverage, where we want a little bit of bronzer. But you'll see when you put this on that it's definitely the type of foundation you can wear on its own. I almost use this as a primer because there's gonna be areas that I'm not gonna want a lot of coverage, especially on somebody like Gabrielle who has such beautiful skin to begin with. Now we're gonna use a little bit of Studio Fix fluid in shade NC40. It's like a chemist. I'm like mixing stuff and I'll use the same brush. And I'm just gonna go where I want a little bit more coverage. So kind of like sort of the perimeter of the face, around the nose a bit. And with this foundation, I'm kind of stippling it on. So like patting it where I want a little more coverage. And you can build the coverage of this really nicely too. This is a great foundation for red carpet. I like this foundation because it looks really natural and flawless in person, but on camera and in photos, it really gives you the coverage that you need so that your skin looks even and clear. And I think that this foundation is great. It stays on. You don't have to really put more of it on throughout the day. It really wears nicely. MAC 224 brush, a fluffy brush, and I'll buff that contour down the sides of the nose, through the eye socket a little bit. This is the best blending brush that's ever existed. Let's see, gorgeous. Now we have our foundation, we have a little bit of contour, and I'm gonna go in and do a little brightening to bring back sort of the center of the face. And for that, I'm going to use the Pro Longwear Concealer. This can be a tricky step because I think not everybody is like one shade. So I like to mix. So I'm gonna use a little bit of NW20. I'm gonna use a little bit of NC30 because you're more of a cool undertone, kind of golden like me. And then let's mix that. This is why I call myself a beauty alchemist, because you really do have to mix up different ingredients, little magic spells for everybody. It's very, very individual. Sometimes I go a little bit lighter on concealer, so you can just tone it with something a little deeper. A little bit of NW25. So for concealer, I like to take more of a flat brush. So I'm gonna kind of warm it up on the back of my hand. And then I'm gonna go just underneath sort of this little ridge that everybody has. And I'm gonna kind of pat the concealer on. And when I get to the outer corner of the eye, I try to find where the cheekbone is. And then I just sort of blend it onto the cheekbone a bit. And it's really important to get right into that little eye socket under here. That's usually where most people need a little brightening. So then I'll take a little egg sponge and I'll push that in. And I'm not really using too much. You can see it's not super dramatic, but it definitely brightens. And you can even bump a little bit on the chin and on the Cupid's bow. I like to use the Prep and Prime finishing powder on a little egg sponge. And just tap it on the T-zone, under the eyes. Anywhere that is considered a hot spot for you. Some people have different areas they like to set a bit longer. On Gabrielle today, I'm just gonna do under the eyes and the T-zone primarily. And then I'm gonna go in with a little bit of bronzer. This is matte bronze. I'm gonna use my favorite MAC contouring brush, which is a 130. It's funny, I didn't really know how to use this brush when I first discovered it. And I had a client in New York, Cyndi Lauper, I'm sure you guys have heard of her before, and she showed me that this brush works really well on her shape of face because it kind of creates this cheekbone for you just naturally, which I thought was really cool. So I've used it like that ever since. So now I'm just following the contour that I put down earlier with a little bit of bronzer. And I'm gonna go through the hairline. Isn't this brush really soft? Mm-hmm. This brush is so versatile. And then the same bronzer with another 224, and we're gonna go back through that contour that we've placed in the eye socket and down the sides of the nose. I like to take a little bit of mineralized skin finish with a nice big puffy brush, and we'll just blend all of this in, and then we'll set the foundation wherever we haven't already powdered. So I'll start usually on this forehead and I'll just dust away the setting powder. And then in little round, fluffy motions, we'll go down across the forehead, we'll go down the nose. We'll kind of sweep away some of that under eye. So once I'm there, I usually move on to the eyes or the eyebrows. I'm gonna start with the universal shade of Lingering. And I like to have this little pencil brush. It's a 219. Start right underneath the brow towards the bridge of the nose. And I'll make a little sketch. And then I'll flip it to its side and I'll do little brush strokes up to the brow. And I'm actually going to leave the center of the brow alone at the moment and focus on this first half. Today, I'm gonna go for a slightly bolder shape on Gabrielle. So I'm gonna bring this out even a little bit further than where her natural hair starts. And then I'm gonna take this pencil brush and I like to just buff it out so you don't see any lines. So just a little bit of shadow back there. I do sometimes use eyeshadow with this same pencil brush. If I want a softer effect, I'll just use a little bit of a brow powder or an eyeshadow. And so for the second half of Gabrielle's brows, I'm going to use Stylized Eyebrow Styler. So we're gonna extend these brows so that we've got this really beautiful frame that gives her her entire eye. So I'm gonna kind of use the end of her eye as a marker to where I'm gonna stop. So I'll go right into the center of the brow, and we're gonna kind of underscore them all the way over and then down. And then I'll go to the top of her brow and I'll meet that. Now I think I want to get started on her eyes. So we will use 24-hour Extend Eye Base. This is kind of like an invisible primer for the eyes. Kind of just evens everything out, keeps your eyeshadow on all day. I definitely like to go in kind of straight away and set that. And today I'm gonna use Orb eyeshadow, which is one of my faves. This is just sort of like setting powder. I'm not so much using it for the color, but I'm using it to set the primer and to give the eyes sort of a really smooth canvas to blend on. And the Orb is great because it's a universal shade. Anybody can kind of use this as their base shadow. It's also really pretty. Gorgeous, right? My next shadow I'm going to use is Cork. I'm going to use just the very tip of the brush so that we can find the groove of the eye and let the brush kind of do all the work. And then once I get to the outer corner of the eye, I flip the brush kind of on its side a little bit, and then it diffuses the shadow really easily. I don't have to think too much about it. And then we get this really beautiful structure to the eye, and we get a little bit of a longer shape. Yeah, that's really pretty. Love that. I think today I'm going to use something a little more graphic. So let's use Embark. So you can see that's a pretty dark color. Tap off the extra. And so I'm gonna aim for the center of that contour. So open for me, Gabby. And I'm gonna go right in the middle of that contour. And I'm gonna pull it out. Towards the brow. And then I'm just gonna buff that out just a little bit. So I want the definition, but I want to keep it really specific, really tight in that All right, let's see, gorgeous. Let's use, this is called If It Ain't Baroque, which is this beautiful frost shadow. It's really gold. I'm just gonna tap this right in the middle. No, maybe I'll use my finger and really pack it on right in the center. Yeah, that's better. It's a little punchier like that. Pretty. Yeah, it's like, I think something that I was scared of when I was younger or first starting out was experimenting and trying different things. I sort of stuck to a template that I found worked for everybody, and I don't think I would ever stick my finger in an eyeshadow. But now, just knowing the technology in these products is like, sometimes they like to kind of maybe be used wet or used with the finger or a different type of brush, and you can get a different effect. Great. Now before we get into lashes, I think we're gonna use a little bit of eyeliner. And I think today we'll use the Black Track Pro Longwear Fluid Line. We're gonna start with a little liner brush. Sometimes I get brushes from art supply stores. Kind of flatten the brush out, get a little bit of the extra product off. And then I find that it actually flattens the brush and it gives you a really sharp line. So I'll have Gabby just close your eyes. And I'll start kind of on this inner corner. And then I'll stop when I get to the outer corner of her eye. Let's see. And then I'll sort of assess if I want to give a wing or if I want to do something more graphic. And then look straight ahead. And then you can kind of fill in the corner. Look down for me. This nice long skinny brush, I feel like it just did the job if you lay it flat. So then you say a little prayer for the second eye. And then look down this way. Mascara time. I'm gonna use Extended Play Perm Me Up. I'm gonna go right to the roots of the lashes. And I'll wiggle and pull up. And this is a very old school tip for mascara. You pull the lashes on the outer corner towards your ear. The lashes in the center, pull them straight up. And the lashes on the inner corner go towards your nose. See? Gorgeous. And now I think I want a little bit more coverage under the eye, so I'm gonna go back into our Pro Longwear concealer. So I'm gonna go back in here and just pop a little bit more concealer right on this inner corner to brighten that up. I also used to be scared about layering products, and I thought that if you have powdered an area or set an area that you couldn't go back in, which I find is not true. It actually helps because it's sort of like when you're painting, even with oil paints or acrylics, you can layer them and you'll get a different effect. And then I'm gonna take Espresso. This is sort of like a deeper medium brown, right on this lower lid where we didn't put concealer, and I'm just gonna sweep that across. And on Gabrielle today, I'm gonna kind of go all the way across. And I'm actually going to kind of match that eyeliner and just sweep it up and out. So we have some nice definition and some balance on the eyes. And then we'll do a little bit of mascara on the lower lashes. Look up for me. So just do a touch. I find that like doing celebrities on their off time, they like to look awake and, you know, a little bit sort of ready. So they'll have lash extensions. And sometimes primers can be, first of all, it takes a little bit more time. And it's just another product that they have to get off. But I do like lash primers, especially on the lower lashes. Last little hit for the eyes, I'm gonna pop a little highlight right on this inner corner. And it's gonna sort of meet this lower tear duct too. Get nice, bright, open eyes. Gorgeous. So I feel like this is a really beautiful eye, and we can move on to the cheek. I love doing blush so much. So I've got all three of these bad boys. So this is Peachy Keen, Peaches, and Dainty Mineralized Blush. So I'm gonna start with the kind of deeper tone, Peachy Keen and Peaches. I'm just gonna mix these bad boys. Gabrielle's gonna smile for me. And I'm gonna aim for right behind the apple of the cheek. So a little bit higher. And I'm gonna actually work this blush up towards the brow. So I'm not actually sweeping it all the way back towards the temple. I'm keeping it on the cheek and up towards the very tail of that eyebrow. I like when the brush kind of meets the shadow because it makes the whole effect more kind of harmonious, and you don't see like, here's your cheek, here's your eye, here's your contour. So I'll do that. Whatever's left on the brush, I'll just dust it right on the apple of the cheek, right? Boom, boom, boom. And then again, right behind the apple. Blush is so fun because it makes people look healthy and awake, and or just sort of mimicking what the body naturally does. Taking a smaller brush, this is a 131 Duo Fiber brush, and I'm gonna go into my lighter Dainty Mineralized Skin Finish blush, and I'm gonna take that right under the outer corner of the eye, and then I'm gonna link up the apple of the cheek with what we just put on. And this almost gives you like a baby doll effect. And because we sorted out that under eye and we kind of set it, it goes on really smoothly. So I'm gonna dip into this Hyper Real Glow with a sort of another, it's like a 224 shaped brush. I've got a lot more control with this smaller brush. And then I'm gonna have Gabrielle smile, and I'm gonna highlight right on the apple of the cheek. Right on the top of the apple of the cheek. And this is different for everybody. Some people, they like the highlight kind of right more central, right here. Some people prefer it to be kind of on their cheekbone. I think just depending on the person, you can adjust the placement. I'm gonna use this same highlighter down the bridge of the nose, right at the tip. And we're going back where we want that projection. So we're just kind of playing with the light, right? So let's set this with our Fix Plus. So I'm gonna mist this all over. I'm gonna start kind of on the sides. Yeah. So we're gonna start with Cork Lip Liner, one of my favorite kind of like deeper nudes. And I'm going to follow Gabby's lip line. So I'm gonna kind of round that out right here. And then we'll give a little bit more fullness to the outer corners. I'm not gonna line this part of her lip. I'm gonna keep that nice and open. I'm gonna just fade that out. So I just faded the Cork lip liner with the lip brush. And then from here, we're gonna use a matte lipstick called Yash. I love matte lipsticks. They're kind of like my go-to. I think for performers and stage, they stay on really well. So give me a little smile, yep. And I'll start right on the lower lip, right where we kind of left that space. When I'm working with singers or musicians who are performing, the lipstick tends to get transfer onto the microphone or just fade. So I'll take a tissue. This is also a very old school, like Max Factor silent film type technique. You split a tissue in half. Take your Prep and Prime Invisible powder. Have them kiss the tissue. You want to hold that for me, Gabrielle? Mm-hmm. And then just pat a little bit of that invisible powder on. And then you take that, and then you've sort of set your lipstick, which is awesome. Big smile. Just want to use it straight on. So with that, we're about finished with our lovely red carpet or special event glam using all these fantastic MAC products. Make sure to catch me on Instagram at Manthony783 and MacPro at MacPro, and we'll catch you next time. Rock and roll.